don't interpret what I mean. I need you to listen. So when I come to you and express myself for whatever reason, right, I need to be able to feel that there is a safe place to be able to do that, right? So I should be able to tell you how I feel, why I feel the way I feel. Even if you don't agree with it, I need you to listen fully to what I have to say before you interject your opinion or before you try to interpret and or analyze what you think I mean. Allow me to say what I believe I mean.
And what does that look like to you?
So it's like asking questions. So rather than speaking in definitive statements like this is how or this is why, you should just ask why. Ask why I feel the way I feel. Ask how something makes me feel. Ask where it comes from. And if I don't know, ask more questions. If you have an opinion about what it is and you think I could look at something from a different perspective, then you can say, have you tried looking at it this way? But when you speak in declarative statements, it makes me feel like you have the answers or that you're right and I'm wrong, when I'm not asking for a right or wrong. I'm asking to be heard.
This was an absolutely powerful demonstration for good communication. Even though these two parties are expressing a need, or the younger gentleman, which I'm assuming is the son, is expressing what he needs, and it's that type of conversation, they still maneuver through it beautifully. I like the first statement coming in straight through the gate, which is don't interpret what I mean. And that's a big, big, big part of miscommunication that we don't realize because of our experiences and what we've been exposed to within our life, um, traumas and fears, for positive and for negative reasons. We tend to use our past experience to try and anticipate or get ahead of the conversation. And when you do that, you're already projecting. When you're in an active conversation between two people, you really need to be in the now. And when I say in the now, I mean you have to put yourself in a position to respond and listen in detail to what's going on today. You may have emotions from yesterday, a week ago, a month ago. You may not know where this line of questioning is going. You may not know where the origin of these emotions are coming from. That is not where your mind should be. You should be listening to what's trying to be communicated to you. And then there's another section when he says, allow me to explain what I think I mean, instead of you taking the position of telling me what I need or telling me what I mean. And usually there's statements involved with that type of dialogue to say, this is why. And basically, that's another form of projection, which means based off of what I know about your words and your body language and your verbiage, this is what I think you're trying to do. This is what I believe your intention is. This is what I believe you're trying to accomplish or not accomplish. And while you're doing all of that in your mind, while you're talking to the person you're trying to talk to, you're exhausting so much unnecessary energy trying to tell them what they're attempting to do instead of pausing yourself and asking the question, why do you feel this way? Why do you feel like you're being defensive? Why do you feel this way? What made you feel this way? So when the father talks back, for him to say, what does that look like for you? It's a powerful response when a person says, this is what I need, because we tend to say generalized statements, sweep me off my feet. You don't listen to me. When in reality, you are looking for a specific action to reflect back at you so you can get a particular feeling. Unfortunately, most people don't know what that is. Case in point, when a person says you don't listen, usually the other person states, well, I can repeat everything you said back to you. From a logical standpoint, that should suffice to convince them that I shouldn't be able to repeat your words back to you verbatim if I, in fact, was not listening. But when you're saying you don't listen, more people actually mean you're not making me feel heard. But instead of saying, I don't feel heard by you, I don't feel like you're receiving my words, they say, you don't listen, you're not listening. So, of course, a logical person is going to contend with that and demonstrate by saying, I can repeat what you said. How did I not listen to you? So a more applicable response is to say, well, if you feel I am not listening to you, tell me what active listening, tell me what a person looks like when they listen to you. What does that look like for you? Then you can get a better sense of clarity as to what is specifically going on that makes them feel unheard. A lot of times, when you get down to the bottom of it, it's not the fact that you didn't address it. It's not the fact that you didn't say, I agree or disagree. It's not the fact that you didn't respond to it. A lot of times, what's really happening is when you say I agree and then step over that statement and then start talking about yourself, you move through it too fast. You need to allow the other person to absorb that area of acknowledgement and accountability, because if you move through it and just say, yeah, okay, it seems like you breeze right over it and you're minimizing it and pushing it to the side, basically. So it's the equivalent of someone saying, hey, you seen these new Jordans? Look at my new shoes. And the person goes, oh, I see them, but look at mine. You see what I'm saying? Yes, they did address you. Yes, they did compliment you. Yes, they did do all the right things. But that person can still feel like they weren't heard, because just as quick as they drew their attention to what you said, they skip right over it and wanted to change your attention to something else. And that can appear to be very dismissive. So when you're in conversation, it's really good to absorb what the person is saying and respond to what they're saying and put a period on it. Put a period on it so they can have a little bit of time to marinate and say, okay, I was heard. They took it in. All right. Maybe even ask a question for clarity to imply to them that you are actually actively listening. But this conversation was beautiful from beginning to end. I love the fact that the son was very clear about what he needed. Sometimes if you need to give me a suggestion, why don't you make a suggestion and we can have a conversation about it, instead of automatically assuming that I did the wrong thing, or interjecting or trying to analyze and create your own narrative creates a experience to where I feel as though you are right and I am wrong. And ultimately, I don't. What I'm looking for in this conversation is not a matter of right and wrong. What I'm looking for is to be heard. And that right there is what makes it powerful, is because when you're talking from a place of logic, that's the only focus, is what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. So a person who comes from a logical standpoint is always ready to remove the things from the conversation that don't make sense. However, emotions don't make sense, but they're forever present. So there's an aspect of not making sense that is still relevant to the conversation, because emotions, you can feel them and they're very present, but in reality, what you perceived didn't exactly happen. So those feelings were unfounded and unnecessary. And when you understand that, then the feelings will dissipate. But that doesn't take away the fact that they were very real in the moment, even though they were also a little illogical and a little irrational. So we have to have the conversations, allow people to express how they feel, and whether you agree or disagree. And that's something that he highlighted as well. Don't have a conversation from an angle of whether you agree or disagree, because a lot of this is not for your comprehension or understanding, in the sense that this should be how you should feel. When you're listening to someone else tell you their experience, you need to take it in like you're hearing someone else's experience. A lot of times we're unable to receive that conversation, because instead of understanding, you're receiving their experience, their perception. They're telling you what the world looks like through their eyes. We receive it as what they're saying is a fact, and it's an accusation, and it's a pointed finger, and we get defensive. So we're already listening for rebuttals, imperfections, and that's when you become a person that's listening to respond instead of listening to understand. Communication is easy when you realize we're the ones that make it hard. Listen for the sake of understanding the other person, not looking for protecting yourself, not looking for your past, not looking for anything other than allowing them to tell you their truth while you absorb it, listen attentively, and give them the support that they need in that conversation. It's very important to tend to the emotional needs of the people that are in your life. You may not understand them. They may not be real for you, but understand, if you're not talking about yourself, then in that moment, it's actually not about you. Peace.